Thank you for joining us at the Center for Teaching Excellence for our webinar, Essential Information for Teaching in Winter and Summer Accelerated Terms. Today's webinar facilitators are Casey Carroll, Instructional Designer at the Center for Teaching Excellence, and Helen Lee, Academic Services Manager at the Graduation and Retention Network, formerly On Your Time. Casey and Helen, I turn it over to you.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. As Gloria said, my name is Casey Carroll. I'm an instructional designer here at the Center for Teaching Excellence. I'm very excited to be with y'all today. So we'll be sharing essential information and some best practices, both for administrating and for teaching our accelerated courses. And then towards the end, just kind of brainstorming some of the things that you might need to do or do differently for your summer courses or for your winter and summer courses. All right. So with that, I will pass it off to Helen, who will get us started with some of those administrative tasks.
Okay, thanks, Casey. Good morning, everyone. My name is Helen Lay. I have been with the university for about 6 years with formerly OYT. Okay, so jumping right in with some best practices for winter and summer. First and foremost, you have taken on a 3-week accelerated course, but you are also in the middle of a regular fall and spring, quite possibly. Expect to have some prepping deadlines that might seem bothersome or annoying in the moment. Sometimes we send reminders out and we hear back, I'm in the middle of finals, or I can't get to that right now. Just know that you're going to get the emails and we'll try to be patient, but also there are some overlap in these deadlines. And that includes meeting with your instructional designers and meeting their deadlines as well for quality review if needed. If you are teaching winter, this coming winter session, you might have heard from Amanda Therrell yesterday that she reached out to everyone to let you know who your assigned course instructional designer is, and that your course will need to go under quality review if it didn't pass last year. If it did, please disregard. But otherwise, those instructional designers are there to support you as well along the way. Be sure to post your syllabus in Blackboard well before the first day of class. And what we mean by that is as well in advance as possible. Students love to prep as well, and in the weeks before they'll be hopping on Blackboard daily to see what's been added. And in that syllabus, we recommend that, because these are typically online classes, winter and then 3 of the summer semester sessions are 3 weeks as well. We recommend that in the syllabus you are as specific as possible when you mention office hours. Try to say that you'll respond within a certain amount of time. Most people say 24 hours, but in a 3-week session, that's even long. So if you could come in under that, that would be great, or be available for students to find you in a chat room or in Zoom and be able to list those hours. One of our instructors, Dawn Campbell, has recommended a welcome email. She says that repetition is critical in these sessions. You might think that you've already put this in the syllabus, all the information, but do reach out to your students maybe a week or a couple of days before the class starts. Reference the things in the syllabus. Don't be afraid to be redundant. These are such fast-paced classes that, like she said, repetition is critical. One thing that we do that in years past we've required in winter session is a video introduction. So beginning today, actually, we start building these winter session pages. And we reach out to you, we ask for your syllabus, we ask for your video introduction and for your learning summary or your goals. So we're going to send those, we're going to start copying and pasting all of those to our website. And in the past, the video was required, but this year it's optional. This service is available to you with the Office of Distributed Learning. Rob Grookett there will meet with you and record for you. And this is just a way to get your students kind of acclimated before the first day. They get to know you and your requirements and what the course is about. We've gotten feedback from students that they loved that because they'll be able to go in and see if this course suits them, if they want to register for it. So yes, this year it's up to you if you'd like to do that, but this is just an example of one.
Helen, go ahead and move forward, and then in a couple of minutes I'll come back and we will check out Donna's video.
Okay, for your textbook, try to eliminate this step well in advance, and that means you are adopting a certain textbook with the bookstore and you're letting your students know what it is in the syllabus or in your welcome email. Sometimes you'll find, like during winter session and the whole university, we close down for a week and a half. So the bookstore will be closed maybe the first 3 days at least, and you might have a little bit of trouble if you haven't handled this issue before. It's good to have PDFs available of those first chapters as backup if needed while students are waiting for their textbook. I know we ran into this problem in years past, but if you do have a traditional textbook and you need your students to have it, make sure you address this before the break. Remember that drop add deadlines come fast for these 3-week accelerated or 6-week accelerated courses. For winter in the past and for 2 of the summer sessions, the very first day of class is the last day to drop. So you want to know who's in your class and if they're supposed to be in your class and if they plan to stay in your class. About that drop add deadline, I will say for winter in particular, because of the way that it is set up, winter is part of the spring semester as a whole. So as far as total semester hours that a student is taking, as far as financial aid and their total tuition payment, winter is one of those classes that's in spring. And it's listed in Banner or Self-Service Carolina as part of spring. So when students register, like I said, November 13th, they may go in and intend to take a full spring session of your course, but accidentally register for winter. Don't worry, we are behind you, and we start sending out emails immediately once registration happens, and we'll say, dear student, you are receiving this because you are registered for a winter session, retail $250. Typically we get about, say, maybe we send that to 40 students. We might get 3 or 4 that say, nope, sorry, I'm in a spring session, you're wrong. And then we let them know that they'll need to switch over because they did accidentally register for winter. Of those 40 minus those 4, there's typically 1 or 2 that still stays in the class, doesn't mean to be, just dismisses the email because they think we don't know what we're talking about maybe. So that's when that first day of class is critical. You'll have a check-in activity to make sure that everybody that is supposed to be in the class responds to you. And then if you don't hear from anyone that first day, please send us their name and USC ID, and we'll make sure that they're either supposed to be or not. This is a part of term breakdown for the summer semester that just passed, for that first Maymester 3-week on the right, and for the winter session that is coming. You'll see in that summer session that classes began on May 8th, and then the last day to drop is also May 8th. For the winter that's coming, there is 1 more day, which is nice. So they'll begin on December 26th, and they'll have until the next day to drop. For that attendance activity for the first day, we will send an email to remind you to do this, but it's up to you what you do. We just recommend maybe an introduction and a discussion post, a syllabus quiz, or respond to why students are taking the course. Anything that gives you evidence that they are there and alive and meaning to be in that class. If you don't hear from anyone by the end of that first day, like I said, please email us that list, and we will follow up with them and either get them out or encourage them to participate. For late registration, so like I said, you'll have some people that don't mean to be there for winter, and this applies to summer too. They decide to drop. There will be, for our winter classes, we keep wait lists for each of our classes, and we will let you know if, say, 2 spots open up and you want to slide 2 people off the waiting list into your class. Totally up to you. If you believe that they can catch up in time, even though it's a 3-week super fast session, then we get the okay from you and we will work on adding them past the drop add deadline. So they'll use that registration exception form in the chat. We will point it out to them, or you can, and they will bring it to you for a signature, or email it to you for a signature, and they'll send it back to us and we'll send it to the registrar, or we'll coordinate the other signatures that they need, including their dean. And while this is in process, and because the university shut down, though we do have communication with the registrar's office, this process can take a couple of more days than it usually does. So in the meantime, please add this student to your Blackboard course manually. Even if a student registers the correct way for a class, maybe it's the day after, so it's still a day to add. It's December 27th. They add themselves. They won't show up in Blackboard until the very next day, based on the way the two programs talk to each other. So even if that's the case, we encourage you to please go ahead and add them yourself to the Blackboard course. You'll also find that some people drop that you don't know about that are still showing up in your Blackboard course. If you're wondering, just feel free to send us their names and we'll check for you and let you know if they're out of the class. Yes, January 15th is still the last day of winter session, and it can be your exam day or it can be a due date for your final assignment. Just like New Year's Day is a holiday. Yep, those are wrapped in. You can do with them what you will. Please consider a course cafe maybe in Blackboard. This is a good discussion board option for your students to have a kind of informal space to chat together. And it's a great place for students to ask questions of each other, and you can monitor this, but it's not graded, it's optional, and instructors recommend this in years past. This is very helpful, and it's like what students use when they use a GroupMe in other classes or on their phones. Just a nice informal space that gets questions answered. We tell students that in that first email, when we tell them that they're registered for winter, that their accelerated course is expected to be 35 to 40 hours of work each week. For this reason, we only allow students to register for one winter session course. They can take two if they get permission from their academic advisor, but formally or officially, it's a one class option for each student each year. It is a lot of work. And you'll feel that too, of course. It's a lot of work for you. Keep in mind that the library and the writing center will have limited hours during winter and or summer. If you typically send them to the library for research or to the writing center for help, just keep in mind in planning that these might not be available. The library will have some hours, but not as fully as what you're used to during fall and spring. It's important to know your support contacts from each office as you're going into the term. The ones that we rely on the most are the registrar's office for those late registering students and for the ones that drop, the bookstore for the textbook, Blackboard team for any problems logging in or having access, Garnet office, that's us, so you already know us by email, and then the Student Disability Resource Center. In your syllabus, you will have told students already to register with the Resource Center if they need to, but you know that some still wait till after class begins to bring this up. We will share these support contacts with you as it gets closer, but ultimately use us as a liaison. And if you are not sure who to contact in each office, you can start with Garnet and we'll help you. Something you might be used to in the fall and spring terms that's different for winter and summer are these progress reports that the Student Success Center offers. They give two opportunities for instructors to issue a kind of alert or a notification if we're worried about students regarding attendance or grades or mental health. And these are pretty helpful and successful during regular terms for getting students the help they need, but they're not available during winter and the 3-week summer sessions. So if you want to intervene on a student's behalf, feel free to contact us as well. Just like the regular semesters, final grades for winter and summer are due no later than 72 hours after the date of the final exam. You'll find that this is particularly important maybe at the end of summer for students that don't know their grade, whether they passed or failed. You'll find that they may be waiting to register for that first Maymester or second until they find out their grades. So timeliness is of the essence here for that. And for other reasons as well, they may have financial aid or graduation needs that they'll need to know their grades as quickly as possible. So keep that in mind, especially in winter when we end on the 15th of January. The regular spring semester will have started on the 8th. So there'll be an overlap, and you might have other pressing engagements, but try to keep those 72 hours in mind. This year, for the first time, we have an instructional development associate for winter session who's assisting your instructional designers, and that's Jennifer Brown. She's a doctoral student in the College of Education. And all this to say that you have extra help. So you have us, you have them, and now you have Jennifer Brown. If you want her extra help, feel free to first reach out to CTE and your designer, and they'll engage Jennifer, and we will all be part of your team. And we just wanted to share with you just some bragging points of how you're making winter better. We started in 2017 to 18 with only 8 classes and 235 students enrolled. And we're up to over 39. This is winter session last year. So we're up to over that this year. We grow steadily each year. Winter session is always extremely popular. It fills up immediately. It's the majority of students that take these classes are seniors because they can register first. So they get in and fill the spots. And because of winter, in many cases, those students are able to graduate the following May. So know that you are part of this retention effort in helping students succeed. Some feedback we've gotten from students, we send them surveys at the end of each summer and winter. And in the upper left, we have that students take winter session because it helps balance fall and spring. So a student who needs to take a total of 18 spring hours is able to take 3 in winter, lighten their spring load, and make it more doable, and maybe even make it work with an internship or a job. And then on the right, for summer, students do love asynchronous courses, and they're able to travel if needed, do study abroad, and work, like I said. So thank you for that. And then from instructors, Don Campbell teaches a highly sought course, Women and Gender Studies 112. It meets a Carolina course requirement for the GSS or the VSR. ST fills up super fast. We would call it a bottleneck course for those that can't get in time in fall and spring, or able to make it work with winter. So we are very appreciative to her. We started with offering this just once in winter, and it's grown, and she does do it twice now. And then Liz, who's here, gave some feedback as well. She finds that her students that are in winter are highly motivated. So I'll just leave you with that encouraging note, knowing that it is 3 weeks, it's so fast, but these are motivated students that are ready to focus and engage and do the work for you. And with that, we'll hand it back over to you, Casey.
Great, thanks. So I'm going to go ahead and share. I'm going to stop this for a second. We're going to share an example of an introduction video before I go into part of my section. Can y'all see and hear that? All right, here goes.
Sustainability has been a hot topic for years, but sustainability in fashion is becoming an increasingly current topic as well. It's also one that's not been previously addressed here at the university. Hi, I'm Donna Watts, and I created this course to meet a need here at USC and to educate our students on the importance of making sustainable choices for themselves as well as in their future careers. In today's world of cheap, fast fashion, clothes are quickly discarded and usually end up in landfills, polluting our environment. In this course, students will learn the challenges facing designers, developers, and consumers as they create, wear, and recycle clothing. Additionally, students will explore sustainable opportunities and best industry practices to save the environment. I hope you will consider and enjoy the course.
So that is an example of just a brief overview of the course, and sharing that ahead of time, especially for winter terms in a regular semester, students might want to explore. They have opportunities to check out the class, see whether or not it's right for them, make changes if they need to. In winter term, that's basically impossible. So the more that they have the opportunity to learn about the course and make sure it's right for them at this time ahead of schedule, it really can be helpful. And that will be one of our themes that we start talking about now, is planning ahead of schedule. So I'm going to talk about some things that we're going to want to make sure to keep the same from our regular instruction, and then talk about a couple of things to highlight that we might want to make some changes to. So a lot of instructors think that the shorter formats, you have to make a lot of changes. One of the keys to teaching them is actually to keep a lot of it the same, especially as you are planning. So one thing that we want to do, and I think that all of your energy is right in this place, right? We don't want to make it so students can just like flake off at the end. We don't want to. We want to keep high expectations. We want to keep conduct expectations. We want to keep high academic expectations. We want to keep all of those things. So make sure to keep high expectations of yourself and your students. So this format is challenging because it's not just shorter, but it is accelerated. So it's the same amount in less time. So because students will be receiving the same amount of credits as a regular length course, it's important to keep the amount of work about the same amount. So this includes the content and the assessments that you would normally use. So a good rule of thumb is that students should be expected to engage in 2,100 learning minutes, which is a combination of class time and homework for each credit hour. So basically just roughing that out, during a 14-week semester, that's about less than 10 hours a week. But for a 3-week course, it's closer to 40. Like Helen said, it's 35 to 40 hours per week that we can and should be asking that they dedicate to these courses. As a fully online asynchronous course, it is really this combination of all the time that they're spending on it. So if you haven't taught fully online and asynchronous before, you can work with your instructional designer to really start to conceptualize what teaching and learning looks like in this space that's kind of outside of the constraints of the normal class periods that you might be used to planning instruction for. I do have some people that will say, hey, it's shorter, I'm going to get rid of the final paper. Okay, well, accreditation-wise, or technically, we're not really supposed to do that. So whatever you would normally teach in 3-credit period or 3-credit course, we should be keeping those expectations. There may be some changes that we can make that we'll talk about in a second in terms of maybe the type of assessments that we're using that can still be meeting the same types of learning goals, some different sort of strategies for providing grading and feedback. So we'll talk about those a little more in a second. So I'm going to assume that you already give fantastic guidance and instructions for your students. So this is something that we're going to keep the same. This is even more important in accelerated and or online formats. So students are going to need everything laid out for them so that they don't have to wait on further instruction or spending too much time seeking clarification. Especially for this type of a course, you have to have everything ready ahead because you will literally not have time to build as you're teaching it. Students have a lot to do in a short while, so maximizing their time on task is key. Make sure that you're keeping students engaged in relevant active learning activities beyond just reading and rote memorization so they can come out of the course with practice of skills even in a few weeks. So a couple of areas that we may want to consider making some changes is planning ahead, which I've already mentioned a couple of times, and I'm going to do it again. Plan ahead because it's so important. Either online or in person, it can be kind of hard to freestyle as you go. I think a lot of people are, if you've never taught online before, are used to a new prep being throughout the course of the semester. And so you have your overall plan, but you're going to get together the lecture and the assignments kind of as they come up across the course of the semester. And for a fully online course, you really have to do all of that up front. So make sure you plan ahead, especially for the winter term course, because a lot of your resources are not going to be available when the course first starts, right? So we're going to make sure that everything is up and running so that your students can have what they need. Make sure that you have or update a communication plan or strategy for how you want to communicate with your students and how you want students to communicate with you. You may need to email them daily. We're going to be dealing with about a module a week, right? Or about a module a day. So a traditional semester week lasts about a day in winter term. So you may want to contact them every day. You may want to contact them at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. It's going to be kind of depend on the type of support and communication that you want to be providing and why. You may want students to be able to contact you faster than email. So during a traditional course, if you always do email, you may want to consider a messaging app such as GroupMe, or if you want to give them your cell phone number. A lot of people have strong feelings one way or the other on that, but it's something to consider ahead of time is about how you want to interact with your students and who want them to be able to contact you. So when you're planning for feedback and grading, consider what you're assigning, what type of things that you're assigning, what needs grades, what needs feedback. Can you mix up individual and group feedback? So do individuals need feedback on every single assignment, or could you provide kind of some summative feedback to the group on some of the assignments? I would encourage you all to work with your instructional designer on your assignments that we can help you to get some good grading efficiency strategies depending upon the types of work that you're doing with your students. And also make sure to create built-in opportunities for students to engage with each other. This can also help you with some of your workload and feedback as well. Do they have the opportunity to answer each other's questions, like a course cafe or a Q&A discussion board? How can you utilize specific teaching tools for interaction? If you're going to use discussion boards as an activity, how can you make sure that they are truly purposeful? I don't think we can say as enough times that a discussion board is a tool. It's not an assignment. So you may utilize a discussion board to enact an assignment, but you really need to plan ahead specifically what are they doing on the discussion boards using this tool versus they're going to post on the discussion board. Okay, that's not an assignment. That's a task. That's nothing, right? So how can we make sure that it's purposeful and moving us towards our goals? And we can help you with that as well. Okay, so I'm going to kind of give you something that you can kind of consider as you move forward. And if you wanted to start to map some of these out, and even for those of you teaching winter term, can take them to your instructional designer and say, okay, these are the things that I thought about with Casey and Helen in their workshop. And these are the kind of things that I want to be working on with you. So think about these things as you start moving forward. What are some things that you need to decide, especially when it comes to, okay, what am I keeping the same? What do I need to change? And what information do you need to gather?
Thank you, Casey
All
and
right.
Helen, so much for your information you provided to us.
So thanks for being here.
Thanks. Bye-bye.